Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the Romantic period, since we've been going down the line of different time periods in music. So today we're going to be talking about who gave life to the Romantic period, what was the Romantic period, notable composers, instruments, history, music, and closing. So to start off with Ludwig van Beethoven, he was a German composer and pianist. He is one of the most revered figures in the history of Western music. His works rank amongst the most performed of the classical music repertoire and span the transitions from the classical period to the Romantic period in classical music. He is known as the father of the Romantic period. And then Jean Jacques Ross, kind of hard to say, and he was from 1712 to 1778. He was a French philosopher and thinker who was born in Geneva, Switzerland. He is considered to be one of the most influential philosophers and thinkers of the 18th century, and his ideas mark the end of the Age of Reason and the beginning of the Romantic period. So those are kind of two of the people who really gave life to it or started it. Um, so a little bit about the Romantic period. As the 19th century rolled around, Ludwig van Beethoven would lead the way into a new era of sound and feeling that historians now refer to as the Romantic period. The Romantic era of music is a part of a larger cultural movement known as the Romanticism, which had a profound effect on all of the arts as well as literature. So this wasn't just music being influenced; it was literature, it was operas, because that was a big thing back then. Um, Everything was kind of affected in the arts categories. So this movement emphasized emotion and individualism, as well as the glorification of the past, nature, and the supernatural. In many ways, it was a reaction to the enlightened ideals of the classical era, which was right before it, which had rooted itself firmly in science and reason, as well as the Industrial Revolution, which was well underway. Basically, Romanticism was a rejection of all things modern, as many thought it was a disaster that the world was becoming industrialized and everything was working in factories. Artists of the Romantic period focused on creating a mood or emotional experience for the individual, and popular themes in their work would include the supernatural, heroism, nature, childhood, and freedom. So, music and music and art and plays and stuff before this time were very chop top, very focused on religion. So they had guidelines, but the Romantic period was more about feeling or more about individualism or what people not really cared about, but not as um, factory produced or like just copy and paste. It was more freedom, if that makes sense. Okay. And then music of the Romantic era featured beautiful and sweeping song like melodies in dramatic contrast of dynamics and pitch. The Industrial Revolution made instruments more commonly available, and so the orchestra naturally grew in size. The invention of the valve also allowed brass instruments more flexibility and the ability to play more notes. The valves are like what trumpets have, French horns, the little things because there's partials. That's just with your lips, but the valves, that's what actually creates the different notes in between the movements. Okay. Composers sought to capitalize on this with compositions that were all about making a big splash, intending to overwhelm audiences with intensely emotional music that included extremes of every kind. Composers also shunned the strict rules and rigid forms of the classical era that preceded them, embracing the freedom of form and design. We also see in a advancement towards the autumnal sounds of modern classical music as chromaticism becomes more commonplace. Program is also a big part of Romantic music as composers began seeking to tell stories and communicate ideas with their compositions. Sorry. Um, One other notable feature of Romantic composers is their propensity to borrow from folk music and dance rhythms, originating in their other countries. A strong sense of nationalism, emerges during this time, with composers desiring to promote and expand upon the sounds of their native lands. Much of this is in response to the fact that German composers seemingly dominated Western music at this time.